Norwegian is not a gender-neutral language at all. In Norwegian, even things have a gender. Your phone is masculine, your door is feminine, and the table is neutral. Still, the debate about gender-neutral language is way calmer in Norway than in the English-speaking world. I don't know why that is, so maybe because grammatically also the language has been a little bit more, we could say, gender fluid. If you have learned some Norwegian, you might know that for feminine nouns, you can always use the masculine article also if you want to. So maybe that's why people are a bit more relaxed about this issue. Or maybe it's also because Norwegians are pretty pragmatic in general. But let's look at it a little bit in more detail. When it comes to pronouns, of course, we have non-gender neutral pronouns in the first place, like han and hun, for male and female people. And just like in English, where they and them has become an alternative, this has also happened a bit in Norwegian, where people might say de, or in the object for them, for when they want to be gender neutral. But of course, there is a little bit of a grammatical problem with it, because de has several meanings. Not just like in English, where they also originally just means a group of people, several people, like my friends, they. That's the same in Norwegian, vennene mine, de. But de is also the old polite form that you might know from languages like German or French or Russian, where you have a polite form, and instead of saying you would use another form. And in Norwegian, instead of du, which you could use only if you knew somebody really well, people would use de in the old days. That has come out of fashion, but still people associate this old meaning to it. And then we would have the third meaning of de, which is a gender neutral person. So it can be a little bit confusing. And Norwegian actually has something that is way cooler, which is the pronoun hen, which replaces han or hun and is gender neutral. To be fair, the Norwegians stole it from the Swedes, and the Swedes stole it from Finland, even back in the 1960s, so a long time ago. I think the reason is that Finnish is a completely gender-neutral language. As far as I know, please correct me if I'm wrong. If you speak Finnish, let me know in the comments. I don't, unfortunately. But therefore, there is no difference between he, she, so it's necessary. It's natural to take this pronoun from the Finnish language. It hasn't become super popular, but you can hear it once in a while. You can read it sometimes, and we will see what the future brings, whether hen is going to become a pronoun that is going to be a bit more popular in Norway. It doesn't have an object form. You would say, jeg snakket med hen. And it does have a genitive form, like an ownership form. So I can say hens bil. Sounds a little bit like hennes bil, but the second e is dropped here. Now, what about professions? In English, you make a difference between an actor and an actress. You don't make a difference between a teacher and a teacheress. I don't know why, but for some reason, that's just the way it is. In Norwegian, of course, every profession has a grammatical gender. So when you say lærer, it's a masculine noun. For some professions, just like the actress, there are feminine alternatives, like, for example, lærerinne. But they went completely out of fashion. So nowadays, nobody uses them, and it's even considered a bit derogatory. So you wouldn't hear it in modern Norwegian anymore. What has become the custom is that everybody uses the masculine form and completely dissociates the function of the grammatical gender from the real life sex or gender. So if you ask a woman who is a teacher, what's your job in Norway? She would reply to you, jeg er lærer. And of course, when I read a text that says something like, the teacher said that, læreren sa at, I cannot deduct if that was a woman or a man or somebody who defines themselves as non-binary. It's impossible for me to say. Of course, there are a few professions where it was really obvious that it would point to male persons, and that were all the professions that end in man, like fylkesmann, styrmann, and so on. So 2 or 3 years ago, the Norwegian government decided to cancel all these job titles that have a man in the end and replace them with more gender-neutral nouns. So instead of fylkesmann, we nowadays say statsforvalter, That's the governor of a Norwegian province. Sysselmann, the governor of Svalbard, is now called Sysselmester. Lensmann, that used to be a police leader of a police department in the rural districts, is now called politistasjonssjef. It's a bit of a clumsy word, but still. That didn't work though on the not so official professions, like for example, styrman, a ship's officer. The reason might be that there is not really an alternative word to it. Nobody came up with it. And even though there are many female ship's officers now in Norway, we still don't have another word. And again, Norwegians are relatively relaxed about this fact. Also, the word nordmann is a little bit of an anomaly. Nordmann means Norwegian in the sense of like the people from Norway, nordmann in the plural, nordmenn. And for some reason, nobody came up with an alternative, so this is still very much in use, even though it points to just the male population. But of course, when we use the word nordmann, we talk about the entire population. So basically, to sum up about the professions, we use the masculine form. Some professions got replaced in more recent days. And really the only word where I remember that we make a distinction between the genders is venn and venninne. So if you're seeing a female friend, you would say venninne. But if you're talking about your friends in general, you would still use the masculine venner or vennene mine. And that would include everybody of all genders.